Oh, yes, welcome aboard. This is the Passball Show, brought to you by JohnPielli.com. It is Monday, the 4th of December, 2017. Lots of stuff to get into. We could talk a little football if we want. I do have some stuff that I want to talk about in regards to baseball and, of course, unifying America. We're going to hit them all individually, but I just want to make sure that you, my listeners, who I very well appreciate, you are running the show. So if you want to comment on the feeds, whether it's Passball Show on Facebook or on Periscope, just let me know what's on your mind. You could also call into the show. The number is 732-364-3598. So you got a couple different ways to interact with the program. If you want, you can always send me a tweet at John_Pielli. There's a lot of reaction, of course, to what happened with the New York Football Giants today. Something that seemed like it was inevitable. But the Giants, uncharacteristically from their own organization standpoint, decided to part with both their head coach and their general manager during the season. With 4 games left, you got Eli Manning, did not start last week, and all of a sudden the coach and the general manager get fired, and now there's a chance he might start this week. So you wonder if that was the tipping point or the last straw in regards to the Giants' ownership. We can talk about that if you want. Like I said, we could also talk about unifying America. But I do want to talk a little bit about baseball and the state that it's in right now. Because there's a lot of different things we could discuss. We could talk about Giancarlo Stanton, the big contract that he's got. Almost him getting a chance to negotiate with the next team that he's going to play for. And it looks like it's going to come down to the Giants and the St. Louis Cardinals, with the Dodgers maybe on the outside looking in, knowing that that's where Giancarlo Stanton wants to go. So the Dodgers organization, their front office staff, their ownership, I'm sure they're all thinking about it. They're deciding whether or not they want to do this, knowing that there's going to be ramifications. They're going to be well over the luxury tax threshold in regards to the very, very soft salary cap that they have in Major League Baseball. But we haven't seen any indication that the Dodgers are interested. Now, if they are, they become the prohibitive favorites without a doubt. You got the Cardinals, who probably are willing to offer the most. They're willing to put the best deal together for the Marlins. But it's not really where Stanton wants to go. And you got his preference to be out on the West Coast, which kind of bodes well for the San Francisco Giants, who Stanton wants to play out that way, and the Giants are interested. So it's really going to come down to between whether the Cardinals could put together a better deal and convince Stanton to want to go to St. Louis, or the Giants, who may not have to have as good of an offer, they have the willingness and the interest from Stanton to want to go there. So we can talk about that if you want. But the thing that I want to start out with today, the New York Yankees hiring Aaron Boone as their manager. And my initial reaction was I almost tried to figure out every possible way that it couldn't work. Or sometimes things happen and your natural reaction is to kind of go negative. And I think a lot of fans and a lot of people in baseball have gone the negative route here. But what it comes down to is the fact that the Yankees got the person and hired the person that's going to be their next manager. They got the person that they wanted. And I'm not saying it from a personal standpoint. I'm sure Aaron Boone's a good guy. I'm sure he has a very good, resounding personality to him. A lot of things about him, the way he speaks, his knowledge of the game. I'm sure a lot of it appealed to the New York Yankees. In the end, though, the guy that they wanted was somebody that was going to not just fit into their system. You hear a lot of talk about how teams are getting, driven with the analytics, and players, are kind of being put in the right positions to succeed. That communication starts from the front office, goes on to the coaching staff, the general manager's involved, the manager's involved, everybody's kind of working together as a team. That's not what I'm getting into right now. The kind of manager the New York Yankees wanted to have is a person that is going to coddle the players, that's going to love the players, that essentially is a guidance counselor wearing a Major League Baseball uniform. You have a guy that certainly is going to be there for morale. He's there to rule the clubhouse, but not rule in the old way managers used to do it. Years ago, a manager that was ruling the clubhouse was the last voice, and you knew he was the boss. He was the one that was going to make sure that everybody understood that everything had to go through him. And you know what? If you didn't agree with the manager didn't care. It wasn't about agreeing with the manager. It was about doing what the manager said. And for years upon years in baseball, managers had the ability to come in there and influence what's going on. They're running the show. Everybody in that clubhouse knew that the manager was running the show. If you were doing something that the manager didn't like and he called you on it, it was your responsibility to change. There was accountability. The modern day manager has almost gone 180 degrees in the other direction. Like I said, the best way to describe it is a guidance counselor. You have a guidance counselor in school. He's there to make sure everybody's okay. Checking on people. Hey, how are you feeling? If you're not feeling well emotionally, if there's anything that's bothering you, you come see me. We'll close the door and we'll talk. You have a therapist. The therapist is there because you feel like you have a reason to talk to the therapist. The therapist is there to listen to you as you let your problems out. And you wax poetically about what isn't going right in your life. And that voice is there to listen, to understand that, you have problems, and to say, hey, I understand. I empathize with you because I know what it's like to have problems. We're turning a baseball manager into that, and I don't know if it's a good thing. It could be. A lot of teams have followed suit. You looked at the World Series this past season, Dave Roberts, A.J. Hinch, they're pretty much the poster children for the modern day manager. The guy that is just going to be there to pat you on the back. You could miss every single pitch in batting practice, and he's there to pump you on the butt and tell you everything's okay. Is that a good thing? Is that always going to be a good thing? The problem is that each team is going to react differently towards the type of manager that they have. We've seen this in many years of baseball. You have certain teams that respond to the guy that's a hard ass, the guy that is going to get in your face, the guy that's not going to take no crap from no one, the guy that's going to put his rules into place and say it's up to the players that are there. It's their responsibility to do what the manager says. And you know what? There's been many examples of those teams that have had success. The New York Giants teams in the 1950s thrived off of that. The players there may not have loved Leo DeRocher, but they sure as hell respected him. Why is it that Billy Martin took the job with the Minnesota Twins in 1969, in the 70s got jobs with the Detroit Tigers and Texas Rangers, and took teams that had no business being in the upper echelon with the talented teams in Major League Baseball, going toe-to-toe with them, winning divisions, making runs for the postseason when they didn't have half the talent that the top teams had. That style of manager worked, and there's many instances where it did. And you also have the other manager, the manager that's quiet, that's soft-spoken, that really is the antithesis of a Billy Martin or a Lou Piniella or a Leo DeRocher. That manager that was soft-spoken was the players' manager. All the players loved him. They just had a good time, and they won that way. It's proven to work both ways. That's why when a manager that's a hard ass gets fired, he's replaced by a guy that is his exact opposite. And the same thing about a player, a manager that's managing too low key. Maybe the front office and the ownership feels like he needs somebody to light some fire in them. Hires a guy that is the exact opposite. It's happened. But now it seems like baseball has come almost to a point where it's hiring one kind of manager. Now, is it because the old school manager or the managers that I was just talking about, either the hard ass or the guy that is going to be kind of quiet and work with the players, I think that second manager is closer to what the baseball manager of 2017 going into 2018 is. But it is like that manager, but it's that one to the extreme. You heard Mickey Callaway in his press conference talking about how he wants to love the players, make them feel more loved than they've ever felt in their life. And I would assume on Wednesday, when the Yankees have a press conference to introduce Aaron Boone, you're going to hear something along the same lines. Can it help? Yes. But can it also blow up in your face? I think there's just as much of a chance of that happening. And here's what I want to get into. Here's one part of this that I don't think has been discussed that much. I haven't heard it on MLB Network. I haven't heard it on the radio. We have a manager, like I said, that is essentially a guidance counselor. He is making sure that the players know that they're special. Making sure that, they're loved. They're appreciated. That if they go out there and go 0 for 4, that they're going to get a pat on the back and told that it's going to be okay next time. The team goes through a losing streak. They lose 5-6 games in a row. The manager is going to be the face of the franchise. He's going to get all the players together. Remind the players how much he loves them. How much he cares about this team. How much he believes in this team. And how much the players, even though they're not doing their best work, they're still believed in and they're trusted in. And that over time, the manager knows they're going to do well. Here's what isn't getting talked about. And I'll put the Mets in there too, because they hired the same kind of manager. You got the Mets, you got the Yankees. I don't know as much about Dave Martinez. I know he's well respected. I know he's, versed in analytics. I don't know if he was brought to Washington to be a guidance counselor. But I'm pretty sure the New York Mets and the New York Yankees just hired one. Now, it doesn't mean that Mickey Callaway isn't a good baseball man. It doesn't mean that Aaron Boone is not going to be successful as a major league manager. They've been put into positions that I think are going to put the leverage towards the players. And when this happens, I could easily see it going the other way. If you look at what goes on in the NBA right now, star players essentially have the opportunity to endorse their coach or tell the ownership and their front office to make a coaching change. The coaches in the NBA are very universal. They have a big impact, but they're easily replaced. It's up to the coach in the NBA to make sure that his players like him. The coach in the NBA has to make an impression on his star players. It's not like that in other sports. It's certainly not like that in football. In football, the coach is trusted to be the absolute in regards to authority, and in a lot of cases, the NFL head coach is making personnel decisions as well. Baseball had that for a little while. It's gotten away from it. It's the new phenomenon. So I want to ask, what happens when the New York Yankees have a tough time? They lose 8 out of 10. Maybe they get off to a bad start. Maybe they run into a couple hot teams early. And they're 2-7. A couple weeks go by, they're 13-18. Now, I'm not talking about this from the impact on the manager. Obviously, Aaron Boone's going to have to face a lot of media scrutiny. He's going to have to answer to the media. He's going to be at the podium every day talking about how he feels after his team loses. Odds are he's going to be saying positive things. He's going to be saying how much he believes in his guys, how much he loves his guys, how the Yankees are going to turn this around. They've had a couple bad breaks, but the better breaks are yet to come. But what happens when he has that first issue with a player? What happens when he tells Gary Sanchez, he tries to give him a little bit of advice about catching. He says, you never caught. Why should I listen to you? You know, what happens when a veteran player like a Jacoby Ellsbury is not getting playing time? And when he's getting playing time, he's hitting well. But Boone's still not putting him in the lineup. And Ellsbury cries to the press a little bit. He makes it known that he's unhappy. How does he handle that situation? And you could say from a psychological standpoint, the manager should be able to bring that player inside, make sure things are okay. But what if that doesn't work? What if the inmates start running the asylum? And that's the biggest risk that you're putting when you're putting a manager in there that is in fact a guidance counselor. I know it's his job to make sure the players are happy. But what if it doesn't work? Is that necessarily an indictment on the manager? If Jacoby Ellsbury, and I'm using him hypothetically, so Jacoby, don't get upset. I'm not calling you out here. I'm not giving the listeners any indication that you are going to cause a problem. But let's say it's Brett Gardner. Let's say it's Chase Headley. Let's say it's Greg Bird. You know, Gleyber Torres is coming up, so he's going to be playing somewhere. What if his playing time impacts that of Starlin Castro? You understand what I'm saying? At some point, he's going to have to make some tough decisions, and these tough decisions are going to make some of the players on this team unhappy. And it could very well be, to no fault of his own, that Aaron Boone's going to have a strained relationship with a player. You saw that happen with Joe Girardi. But in the end, that player could have been unhappy, but understood that Joe Girardi was the boss. Joe Girardi had been around for a series of years. He's the major league manager. He's the guy that's in charge. But when you have the mentality or your idea of trying to get your players to make sure that they're loved, that they're nurtured, that they know everything's going to be okay, there's a chance that somebody's going to rebel. And you're going to have to make some tough decisions, especially when you're talking about an offensive team that is not using amphetamines, so you don't have any players that can go out there and play that day game after a night game. You're going to need to give players rest. It's important to have a deep bench in Major League Baseball now because the guys on the bench are going to be getting in a lot of games. And you know what? At some point, you're going to have to ride the hot hand, which is going to come at the expense of a player that is used to being out there every day. So what happens when you get that player that's upset about it? You could bring him inside. You could bring him in the office. And you could tell him he's going to get playing time. But right now, this is best for the team. But that player's not going to want to hear that. That player's not going to want to hear it coming from Billy Martin or Lou Piniella or Leo DeRocher. That player is not going to appreciate that or want to hear that from anybody. So even if you've developed the relationship with that player, that he knows that the guidance counselor loves him, that he's patting him on the back, that he knows that he cares about him more than anybody else that's not associated with the New York Yankees, that player's still going to rebel. And you know what? There's a chance that that player is going to have a better chance of rebelling when things aren't, when the manager has given the indication that he is a little bit soft. And I'm not saying that Aaron Boone is soft. I'm not saying that Mickey Callaway is soft. But what they are representing, what are they representing? They're representing a manager that's supposed to be players first, that's supposed to encourage and have a mood on the clubhouse, but not only that, is supposed to make sure that the players know that the manager is there for them. What happens when you have to make tough decisions? It's natural. It's human nature people rebel. If you're working a job and you're given every single thing you got, and your employer decides that they're going to change things up and put you in a lesser position, you're going to be upset over that. You're going to be hurt over that. There's no way that your boss is going to be able to convince you to not feel the way that you feel. So when it comes down to it, a manager is put in a very tough decision when their authority, which may not be taken away from them, is diminished because they're there to be a cheerleader, a rah-rah type of guy. And so in some cases, the rah-rah gets taken out of the manager when you're talking about the conventional Major League Baseball manager. So when you have a situation where players naturally are going to be unhappy, and they're naturally going to be unhappy because there's difficult decisions that have to be made over the course of every baseball season. Leo DeRocher brings a player into office, says, hey, we're going to do something differently, and that's it. The player puts his head down, leaves the office, and decides, you know what, if I want to be part of this team, I'm going to have to play the role that the manager says that I'm playing. But nowadays, managers have to make tough decisions. That player is going to be just as equally unhappy. And you know what? What happens when you get a series of players that are unhappy? They talk to each other. You have what's called, in the worst case scenario, a mutiny. But in a minor case, it's a small amount of distrust. Those players that all of a sudden have to play different roles on a major baseball team are saying, I thought this guy was nice. I thought he loved us. If he loved me this much, he wouldn't take me out of the lineup. What you're seeing, and this is going to be the dramatic opposite of what the intention is, but it's going to be seen at some point. Players are not going to be happy. It doesn't matter how much the manager loves them. If you're taking them out of the lineup, if you're reducing their role, they're going to be unhappy. They're going to be unhappy if the guy is a jerk. They're going to be unhappy if the guy is Joe Girardi and he's matter of fact and accepts the fact that he's got to make tough decisions. He's going to be just as mad if it's Aaron Boone with a smiley face. It's almost going to come out the other way. It's almost going to come out in a way where you say, he took me out of the lineup, he's replacing me every day, and he's got a smile on his face. The nerve of him. So what happens? Exactly. The inmates start running the asylum. And you can see some instances of managers in Major League Baseball, especially the new era manager, that has tried so hard to make sure the players like him. It has the inverse effect, and the players feel like they're running the show. And I understand that's where baseball's come to. The manager's responsibility in that dugout has changed a lot. The spray charts are out there. So the coaching staff and the analytics department and the front offices have determined beforehand exactly where a player is going to be positioned in the field. It's not the manager saying move over a couple steps. It's the data that says this guy's playing here on this batter. If the count goes to 2-2, he's playing over here. The manager's not making that decision. So I understand we want to redefine what a major league manager's role is. Because you know what? The game could probably go on okay without a guy in a dugout. You could have a series of coaches that are running the team. That manager is just the head coach. But he's the head coach without a game plan. He's the head coach being told what to do. Definitely being told to do by the front office. Definitely being told to do by the analytics staff. but almost being told to do what to do by the coaching staff. So teams are at a little, with a little bit of an issue over what is the manager going to do. He's writing the lineup card with the data, with the discussion with the coaching staff. So what are we going to do? We're going to make sure that he's a guidance counselor. We're going to make sure that he meets with the players every day. We're going to make sure that he goes out to dinner with his players a couple times a week. He gets to know their families. They get to know him. He brings his family in the clubhouse. The clubhouse is a family atmosphere. Everybody's all lovey-dovey. This will work through spring training, but once the season starts, it comes down to one thing. It always has. Wins and losses. And when you start to lose, you start to have to look at the big picture. You start to have to see what is it that's causing you to lose. And then you're going to have those uncomfortable conversations when you have to make some changes. And those players are going to be unhappy. And if there's enough of them that are unhappy, the inmates start running the asylum. Mark my words. It's going to happen at some point. Can the Yankees skate by and have a perfect storm and go out there and win many championships with Aaron Boone as their manager? Yes. Could Aaron Boone potentially be the Yankees manager for the next 10 years? Yes. I think they're hiring a very good baseball guy. A guy that's part of the third generation of Boones that have played in the major leagues. The second generation of Boones that have now become major league managers. Did he get some experience working for ESPN? Absolutely. He's there every Sunday. He's getting into the locker rooms. He's talking to players. He's getting a sense of what's going on. He's a very good analyst. He's a good guy. I haven't seen anybody that has spoken about anything bad you could say about Aaron Boone. And if the Yankees go out there and he writes the lineup card and they win, they go out there and they win the division, they win the World Series, he's going to look like the hero. But what happens if it doesn't work out that way? What happens if the players start to push back because they think he's a pushover? They might. And the same thing might happen in Queens with Mickey Callaway. How does Mickey Callaway handle Yoenis Cespedes when he decides that he's going to go low for a ball in the outfield? Is he going to pat him on the back? Tell him, hey, I appreciate the effort, even though he knows that there wasn't a lot of effort given? Is he going to call out a player that isn't giving effort? Is he going to bring that player in the office? Even in a case where none of the players may know? And talk to him? Give him the right advice? And get the most out of him? Because that's a big responsibility on the manager. The manager is supposed to get, as we hit the halfway point, right here on the Pass Ball Show. That half hour went by pretty quick, let's be honest. This is the Pass Ball Show brought to you by JohnPielli.com. Throw the number out there again, 732-364-3598. 732-364-3598 will get you up. Anything that's on your mind, if you want to talk about the Giants, that's fine. We actually might not have enough time to touch on them today. But I hope, in closing, you get my point. When you have a soft manager, and I'm not implying that Mickey Callaway or Aaron Boone are soft, but when they give the impression that they're serving as a guidance counselor, it could only lead to players trying to push them, trying to see what they could get away with. Thinking, hey, if this guy's a pushover, I'm going to see how far I can go with it. And you ask, how does the manager deal with that? That would be the first question I'd ask Aaron Boone. That would be the first question that I'd ask Mickey Callaway. Maybe I get the opportunity to see one or both of them at baseball winter meetings when I go down to Orlando. If I had one question to ask either one of them, that would be it. You want the goal to be a person that's there for his players. And a guy that can be talked to, can be spoken to, can discuss things. But most importantly, the manager is the guy that the players know loves them and will coddle them and will do everything they need to make sure that they know that. What happens when it goes the other way? Are we creating a situation in baseball where the inmates will start running the asylum? It's interesting to think out. Once again, John Pielli, happy to be with you. Moving on. And we're going to try to get into a couple things before we go, but I did want to make this point. This will be my America statement for the day. I spent a lot of time thinking about prejudices, discriminations. You know, it's very prominent throughout the world, very prominent throughout our country. And everybody, no matter who you are, can probably think of some instance where they've been discriminated against, where people have certain prejudices against them. I don't make a big deal about it because I'm very thick-skinned. Prejudices are out there every day about the traditional white male. But we could talk about anyone that's out there. There's discrimination that goes on. There's people that make prejudging determinations before getting a chance to know somebody. There is one out there that nobody has addressed. And I understand we live in a society right now, the way it's set up, that there's extra sensitivity. Sensitivity towards everything. Sensitivity towards any statement that's made. If there is any slight lack of political correctness to a statement, it gets held against that person. We're very sensitive. We talked about baseball managers are very sensitive now because they know the players are sensitive. Here's the one set, and I'll actually set it up to where there's two sets of people that are discriminated against every day, that are judged every single day. People know that somebody is part of this group or this other group and have decided right off the bat that they don't want to have a conversation with that person. They treat them differently. They stay away from these people. They don't want to talk to them. They don't want to have a discussion with them. And I'm talking about people that are on the polarizing spectrum of politics. Now, these are people too. In fact, everybody's got a political opinion. So I'm sure, unless you abstain from political conversations, you have political issues. There's things that mean stuff to you. But do you realize that you are discriminated against? Because once you throw political views out there, there are 60 million people that disagree with your political views. And out of that group, there are a lot of people that do not want to have a conversation with you, that think they're better than you. They treat you like you're a lesser person. Does this sound familiar? This is the same treatment that we talk about when we're talking about racism, when we're talking about homophobia, xenophobia. We're talking about people that are judging others based off of an issue, which is the same as treating people differently based off the color of their skin or their sexual orientation or their sex or their religion. But this, according to the American people, is okay. How are we going to live in a society where the goal is for everybody to be treated equally? Yet we don't treat people equally based off of their political beliefs. Somebody that's far to the left cannot sit down and even look in the eye of a person that has beliefs towards the right. And this is okay. This isn't viewed as discrimination. This isn't viewed as prejudice. It's okay because it's politics. We live in a country where you're not supposed to be judged by your race. You're not supposed to be judged by your sex. You're not supposed to be judged by your religion, by your sexual orientation, by any sort of other creed or difference that you have. But if it comes to politics, it's a fair game. It's open. It's open to destroy somebody. It's open to bully them. Because that's what's happening. People are bullying each other over their political beliefs. And that's okay. You know, if Johnny is facing so much heat because he believes something politically and everybody around him doesn't, and they bully him to a point where he puts a gun to his head and blows his brains out, that's okay. But, you know, God forbid that happen because of somebody's race. God forbid that happen because of somebody's sexual orientation. God forbid that happen because that person was in college and a little bit overweight. God forbid that happen because that person didn't fit in any other way, shape, or form. But if it's politics, it's okay. Screw them. He doesn't have my political beliefs. We talk about sensitivity as it exists in this country, and it's all over when it comes to everybody. Everybody is overly sensitive. Everybody wants to be politically correct. Everybody analyzes every single word that's said and thinks, is there any way we could twist it, throw it against them? But if that person is talking politics, screw them if I don't agree with them. I'm going to bully the hell out of that person. That person has Republican belief. Oh, you know what? I'm going to keep going at them until they get out of here. Till they feel terrible about themselves. Till they feel like the loser that they really are. Bullying isn't okay. But apparently, when it applies to politics, it's perfectly fine. The people have spoken. Are we going to change this? I hope we do. And I hope you can sit here and think about your little stupid political opinion and understand that whatever it is, there are plenty of people just like you that are no different than you, that aren't any lesser of a quality or a caliber person. They're not less of a human than you, that are going to believe the exact opposite in what you say. And once again, it is bullying. It's bullying just as much as it is if you're bullying somebody based off any other difference that they have. But for some reason, when it comes to politics, it's okay to bully somebody. It's okay to gang up on them. It's okay to treat them as if they are less than you. Yet all I keep hearing is we're all Americans. And what do I keep saying? We are all the same. God didn't create any one of us any differently. There's no exception when it comes to politics. The same standards that you hold yourself up to when we're talking about any group, whether we're talking about an ethnic or a racial group, a different religion, whether it's sex or sexual orientation. There's no reason to discriminate against anybody, even when it comes to political beliefs. Yet we don't seem to get that message. At some point, I hope we do. And I'll tell you, I'm going to keep preaching on this program 5 days a week. And you know what? If you want to be a divided nation, then don't listen to me. I'm not on here for clicks. I'm on here to get a message out. And this message is something that means the world to me. And I'm as passionate about anything. And those who know me know I love sports and know I love baseball. But what I'm even more passionate about that is the country that I live in. The country that's taken the best from the entire world and put it right in front of us with freedom. And if we're going to sit here and pick and choose our little groups and decide that this group isn't getting this, that group isn't getting this. But we're going to still discriminate and be prejudiced over people based off of their political beliefs. You're being hypocritical. You are. So when you're lobbying for this group, saying that they're not getting the right treatment, or that somebody else is getting a little more credit than somebody else is. There's preferential treatment going on. And you're lobbying about this, lobbying about that. But you're still bullying other people based off of their political beliefs. You're a hypocrite. Nobody likes to be told that they're doing anything wrong. Once again, going back to what I was saying about baseball managers. Aaron Boone and Mickey Callaway. They want to make sure the players know that they love them. As a country, we have a whole lot of people that have a whole lot of differences. Some of it's physical. Others are by choice. Some of it you were just born that way. Everybody has the right to be treated equal. And if you have a political belief that's different than somebody else in a different group, you should be treated the same. And you're either going to do it or you're not going to do it. It's frustrating. It's frustrating what I see every day. Everybody always has somebody else to blame. But there's not enough people that are standing up to say, you know what? I want to do everything I possibly can to make this country a better place. When you have political beliefs, understand the values of your own political beliefs. Look in the mirror and think about the reasons that you believe what you believe. But understand somebody else that's not like you. Somebody else may have a different reason for believing what they believe. That doesn't make that person any less than you. We tend to always make it about other things, though. We have not focused on discrimination and prejudices that exist based off of political beliefs. I love Republicans. I love Democrats. I love black people. I love white people. I love men. I love women. I love Christians. I love Catholics. I love Jewish people. I love Muslims. Seems like we are programmed and told throughout the media every day, through the political correctness, that we're all supposed to be treated equal. Well, when it comes to politics, it seems like there's an exception. We have a chance to change that. We have a chance to think about that. We can. We just got to talk about it a little more. Do we have to debate back and forth why we have our own political beliefs, why we believe what we believe? No. We could talk about it. But I tell you, that person that has the opposite political beliefs than you is no less than you. You are no better than them. Let me just remind you, in case you've forgotten, in case you think that you're so much better than that person that has a different political belief than you. Understand that belief right there, when you say that, is just as discriminatory, is just as prejudice as somebody that has a different color skin that says that they're better than you. That's the same as somebody that believes in a different religion than you, telling you they're better than you. Why does it apply to every other wake of life? but not apply to politics? Somebody give me an answer already. You can have every other difference in the world. And if you do, there's a group of people that are behind you. There's an activist group that says, we need to make sure that these people are treated fairly. But when it comes to politics, bully the hell out of people. It's okay. Because it's politics. But like I said, when little Johnny blows his brains out because he can't handle the people that abuse him and treat him so unfairly, all of a sudden, we're talking about mental health. We're talking about, why does he have a gun? We need to start treating each other with a little more respect. We need to start understanding that we have differences. Some of them are physical, some of them are emotional, some of them are our own choice. And these choices that we make, as long as they're not harming anybody, as long as they're not violent choices, they should be respected. Once again, John Pielli, Pass Ball Show. Happy to be with you. That was my message for America today. I do want to get into the Monday night game tonight. You got the Steelers taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. And the one thing that stood out to me, and I've heard it time after time, and I don't necessarily agree with it. I understand that Coach Mike Tomlin and the Steelers are looking past this game for next week when they play the Patriots. When the Steelers play the Patriots next week, it's going to certainly show and give a very good indication of where the Steelers are at and whether they're going to be able to stay on that level and compete with the Patriots. Because you know what? The Steelers could go out there next week and beat the Patriots, and it's going to be nothing to them. They still know that the AFC is going to go through them if they want to get to the Super Bowl. Any other team, the other 14 teams or 15 teams, as I blame this stupid CBS site that you can't click on anything on CBS Sports without a stupid pop-up with some jackass talking. Bottom line, Steelers still got a game tonight. They're going to Cincinnati. And I'm actually going against what a lot of the people are saying about the Steelers laying down and not giving their best effort today. Steelers are playing a team in Cincinnati that, sure, they're still hanging around. The game means a lot to the Bengals. If the Bengals can win this home game, they start thinking about their possibility of making the playoffs. Steelers are 9-2. A win today will put them at 10-2. Will put them in a great position as they get ready for the Patriots next week. Can you make a case that maybe they're starting to think about them? Of course they are. Yes, Ben Roethlisberger. Yes, Mike Tomlin. Yes, Antonio Brown. They want the Patriots next week. Steelers look at themselves as a team that could compete with them. And you know what? Next week they'll have that opportunity. But right now, they got to play the Bengals tonight. They're not going to lay down for them. The Patriots are watching them right now. And if they no show against the Bengals, I'll tell you, the Patriots are going to roll right over them. Not only next week, but in the playoffs whenever they face them. So if the Pittsburgh Steelers want to show that they're an elite team in the AFC, which they've proven it, it looks like right now, odds are, they're going to be that number 2 seed, or maybe they'll be the number 1 seed. They're going to have a first round bye. They're likely to. And I think they're certainly a better team than that third place team, the number 3 seed, whether it's going to be Tennessee or Jacksonville. They have a more complete team. But I'll tell you this game on Monday night in Cincinnati is a lot more important than the media is making it out to be. If they half-ass it and the Bengals come out there and run over them, then I don't think the Steelers got a chance against the Patriots. And who cares? If the Patriots lose the game next week, they'll still laugh at them. Bottom line is, the Steelers need to show a big performance today. We need to see the best in the Pittsburgh Steelers. And you know what? I'm believing in that. Pielli's picks tonight, Steelers. +4 at Cincinnati. I think you're going to see a good effort from the Steelers today. Contrary to what's being reported. How do you in the NFL take your opponent for granted when they can knock your head off? When there was doubts about the New York Giants giving effort, I said, number one, the players were only embarrassing themselves. And number two, the players were putting themselves at risk of getting killed. That doesn't happen in the NFL. And if it does, it happens very few and far between times. I'm expecting the Steelers to go out there, give you a solid effort tonight on Monday night, and they're going to beat the Cincinnati Bengals by 5 or more points. That's Pielli's pick today. Couple things I'm going to touch up on before we go. Eli Manning, good chance he's going to start this week. Reports say he's going to be the starter for the Giants as they play the Cowboys at home this Sunday. What does that mean about the coaching situation? I haven't mentioned it on the show yet. I've carried 50-plus minutes without talking about Ben McAdoo being relieved of his duties today and Jerry Reese being let go today. They barely walked out the door in the Giants' facilities. And there's already a report that Eli is going to start this Sunday. The Giants, as a football organization, have a certain way that they've conducted themselves. And I understand, and I get the backlash in this regard. It's been a mess this year. It shows that there is no team in professional sports that's not going to have instances like this. There's no team that organizationally is superior and can keep stuff like this from happening. It happens sometimes. The Giants are 2-10. Ben McAdoo wasn't let go today because the Giants are 2-10. He was let go today because the Giants are 2-10 and the organization has become a disgrace. The ownership's not going to go for that. The handling of the Eli Manning situation was what got him fired. Not the fact that he sat him. But I tell you one thing, and Wellington Mara always did this when he was the owner for the Giants for years. John Mara's doing the same thing. They take into account what the fans think. And the fact that the fans have probably written the Maras, he's probably gotten thousands of letters from the beginning of last week. The support for Eli Manning, whether it's his teammates, whether it's his ex-teammates, whether it's the fans, whether it's the media. That's what got Ben McAdoo fired. And if you look at it this way, the sad thing about it is Eli Manning's played poorly. Eli Manning has not had his best season. Now, you could say that he hasn't gotten a lot of help. You could say that his supporting cast has been mediocre at best. He doesn't have a good offensive line. His receiver's a prima donna, and he got hurt. They don't have a running game. You could say whatever you want about it, but Eli Manning could have done one of two things. He could have found a way to play at a level that made you think this guy is a top quarterback in the NFL. And his play, in spite of what's happening around him, could have stood out in a way that it's never stood out before. And if that was the case, there would have been no excuse to sit Eli Manning. You cannot sit a player that is playing at a top level with nothing around him. So Eli Manning not playing well is a sign that he's digressed. It's a sign that maybe he's running for his life out there, worried when he's going to get that next hit because nobody's blocking for him. When he's trying to throw balls to receivers that just don't have the instinct that OBJ and a Brandon Marshall have. He's been playing scared. He hasn't been playing his best. He has been playing at a level where you think that the 37-year-old quarterback is starting to digress. So from that aspect, maybe it was time for a change. The way Ben McAdoo handled it, well, it forced the Giants to do something they haven't done since the late 70s. And that's fire a coach in season. Part of it's the 2-10 record, but I would bet you if the Giants were 2-10 and still giving effort and not having this media circus over whether Eli Manning's going to play or not, there's a good chance McAdoo would have finished the season. The Giants have done something that they haven't done in 40 years. That's fired their coach mid-season. And that's because it just became something that was like the fumes around Pigpen and Charlie Brown. It's a cloud that's embarrassing the Giants organization. The New York Giants, who have taken the pride in the way that they run their organization and the professionalism, is looking like the Mickey Mouse Club. That's why the coach lost his job today. We'll be back with you tomorrow, probably a little later. We'll be on probably around 8 o'clock. I'll give a little update as we get closer. It's got something I have to attend to, but we will be with you the rest of the week, 6 o'clock, right here on Periscope and Facebook Live. And the games will be available. The shows will be available on YouTube shortly after the program. God bless you, and as always, I'll see you on the other side. Rock on Chicago. We build excitement.